Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for registering and joining CrossCountry's Sage Intacct Release 3 webinar. We're excited to walk you through some of the newest features in the third release of 2026. Before we get started, a few quick housekeeping items for today's session I wanted to go over. All attendees will be muted throughout the presentation. To earn CPE credits, you must attend for at least 50 minutes and respond to a minimum of 3 polling questions, which will appear on your screen throughout the session. If you have questions during today's demo, please use the Q&A feature in the Zoom. Our post-production support team will do our best to respond throughout the session, and we'll also set aside dedicated time at the end for Q&A. All right. Just to reiterate what's on your screen now, you're listening in through your computer speaker system by default, and all attendees are automatically muted when they join. If you'd like to ask questions at any point, please just use the Q&A panel and we'll respond throughout the presentation and toward the end. All right. To kick things off, I'd like to introduce today's facilitators. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's a look at today's agenda. First, we'll introduce today's facilitators and the broader CrossCountry Sage Intacct PPS team. Next, we'll cover our PPS offerings. Then we'll move into a live demo of the R3 updates. And finally, we'll wrap up with key takeaways and open it up for Q&A. To kick things off, I'd like to introduce today's facilitators. I'm Becca Rust on our Sage Intacct service line, and I'll be your moderator today. Joining me is Joy Ash, Solutions Consultant in our Sage Intacct service line, who will be leading today's release demo and will be walking through all of the exciting release features. With 15 years of experience helping organizations get the most out of Sage Intacct, Joy has guided hundreds of successful implementations and is passionate about delivering solutions that drive long-term customer success. We're looking forward to sharing today's session with you. Now I'm going to introduce the rest of the team. All right. On the call, we also have our PPS team, which includes Ashley, an experienced manager on our Sage Intacct service line, James, a manager on the team, and Rosa, a senior consultant. Together, our team brings decades of combined hands-on Intacct experience from implementations to system optimizations to day-to-day support. And they're the people you'll be working with if you're one of our PPS clients. Now let's talk about the objectives for today. By the end of today's session, our goal is for you to be able to identify which R3 enhancements are most relevant to your day-to-day tasks and the impact of each, explain 3 or more feature enhancements from Sage Intacct's 2026 R3 release, identify 5 key cross-country post-production support offerings, and get all of your release questions answered. Now let's kick things off with our first polling question. How prepared is your team for the R3 release? Give everyone about 30 seconds to answer here. Okay. A couple more seconds. All right. So it looks like most of you haven't had a chance to start looking at anything yet. That's totally fine. That's what we're here for today. So let's go ahead and keep jumping through here. All right. So next, I want to go ahead and highlight our full suite of post-production support services. Many of you are probably already familiar with our offerings, but it's worth remembering that our PPS team is here to support you all year long, not just during release periods. Our goal is to help you maximize the value of your Sage Intacct investment at every stage, from operational support and system health checks to enhancements, integrations, reporting, release management, and any other needs you might have. All right. This next slide breaks down our five key PPS offerings: operational support, enhancement projects, system health checks, integrations, and release management. With that, let's go ahead and move into our next polling question. How would you describe your organization's use of Sage Intacct today? Again, we'll give everybody about 30 seconds to answer. All right, just a couple more seconds here. Right. All right, great. So thanks everyone for sharing. Whether you're using Sage Intacct to its full potential or no, there's more to explore, that's exactly why we're here today. Now I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Joy, who will walk you through the live demo of the R3 release updates.
Thanks, Becca. And thanks to everyone for attending today's presentation. We have a few features here that I'm really excited to show, but before I jump in, I want to mention that what I'm showing are basic configurations and general examples. Your instance, your role, they may look different. So if your view is different from what you're seeing today, it might be permissions. You might want to check that first. But we do have our experts here today to answer questions. And of course, as always, you can always reach out to us for extra support or help with your specific use cases. We're always happy to help, as you all know. So starting off strong in our release, when you log in, Sage is refining our toolbars and navigation. From our toolbar, we have direct access into Copilot, and that's nice to be able to walk back and forth between the features or then just drop back out. We also have a quick link to Collaborate. If you are using Collaborate, being able to filter from the toolbar, it's really nice to see it here side by side rather than navigating from the home screen or moving away within a transaction itself. I really like this new feature of navigation. Help is still here, but you will see I now have a little announcements button now. And that shows quick navigation to things like our release notes, our extra spotlights around certain products or areas. Getting started will take you directly to things like a video library or quick start links if you're new in the system. That's always a nice feature to be able to refer for a new hire or someone learning the system just to be able to quickly access. We also have a link to events and webinars with Sage that are coming up and an easy way to register for them as well as some tips and tricks embedded within. So this is just really for fun, I think. Lastly, underneath our users, we have the ability to quickly navigate to my preferences rather than having to navigate that from within the company. Okay, so moving into our company configuration, one important release details that I really want to start off with is in security itself. And we have some fraud protections to talk through. The first one is user email validation. And I think that I'm just going to talk through that, not show, but I think email validation is really important to talk through in terms of when we have new users coming into the system, we are now validating that their email is not fraudulent or that the user has confirmed it is correct. This area does not apply to SSO logins or anyone using an Active Directory login because those emails are typically already validated. So in security here, you'll see I have email sender domain settings, and this has been here for quite some time. The improvement here is for our console users. You can set this up now at the console level to ensure all companies inherit the same validated domains, making maintenance easier across all of your console members. So building upon those fraudulent activities and things that cut down on spam and phishing specifically, we now have the ability to add blocked email addresses into a list. And this is really important from the perspective of those using AP or expense automation. or even the features with e-invoicing, because we will now have the ability to block email accounts that are suspicious or fraudulent. So adding into that list is really simple. I just click add here and I add the address, I save, and I keep that list going. And what that means is now any bill or expense that arrives through automation would be validated against this list, and it would no longer create the bill or expense transaction, thus reducing fraud into your system. Pretty cool. So building upon these fraud protections, let's go look at a new feature in accounts payable that helps to support that. Oop, let me come to my list. Now, in accounts payable, this works when you have AP automation in place. And you'll see that I have my enhanced list set, and I have a build here and selected specific columns around AP automation. And I'm doing that specifically to call out that within AP automation, we have the ability to import, refresh, upload, but you can also see flags within that transaction if there are issues with importing or within the processing itself. So building upon that in this feature, in this release, we now have anomaly detection. And again, you need to enable this, you'll need to add anomaly into your enhanced list. But once you've done that and it's on and it's always on with AP automation, but you're able to see the results. So what does this do? It is similar to GL outlier detection process, if you're familiar with that. Anomaly detection is looking into the subledger rather than the general ledger, and it's looking against your vendor activity and history. And it's doing that now in two ways, by email, by amount, and then under multiple, it might be both of those things. So email pairs with what we were just talking about with adding my blocked addresses in my security settings. But this is a precursor in that anomaly will flag for investigation before the bill is posted. It isn't on the blocked list yet, but it may not be a typical email associated with that account, and this flag will let you know that you need to review it. Now, if you accepted this bill here, the system would remember that and save that information. But if you added it to the blocked list, it will no longer even create that draft bill from here. The next thing that Anomaly is analyzing is the amount of the invoice, specifically looking for unusual amounts. For example, maybe you have a utility bill or a phone bill and it's never more than $500 or more than $1,000 if you're managing multiple lines. But suddenly you have an AP automated bill from Verizon or AT&T for $10,000. This tool would flag that here for review. So again, building upon that GL outlier detection, reviewing our journal entries, now in AP automation, it's going to analyze, not just analyze and return back coding as it's doing in the original in our basic world. Now we've improved this to adding that fraud protection element to make sure this is a legitimate bill entering through automation into our system. All righty, so building from here, but still within accounts payable, we have a new edit feature. And I'm going to show you this on an example of a pass-through expense. And in this example, I've got a posted bill. I've got my vendor set here. I've got the details here. It's been posted, but it has not been paid yet. And that's because it's been placed on hold. So I need to take this off of hold so that it can be paid. I was limited what I could do in edit before when this has been attached to an invoice or billed or pass-through billed. So normally once that invoice has been billed, it is invoiced and it could be paid. And that limitation was from that lock of the creation of the AR invoice or your order entry invoice. So now I have the ability in this release to change that, come into edit and take this off of hold, and that will open this up and allow it to be paid. Now, in terms of what else I can change here, I could also edit the bill, the invoice number, or a reference. any terms or due dates around this, but I would not be able to edit GL or any of the dimensions around this because, again, those are locked because of my billable feature. It's been engaged with an invoice and passed through with that bill before it was paid. So this is a nice feature to be able to now not have to go void, change things through that billing or wait until I pay the AP bill and before I can pass through that invoice. Alrighty, so moving on. Another feature in accounts payable, and this one is where we're building upon more of the function of refund from our last release. So just really simply to review that. I have a simple refund here that I've set up. Now, again, this is using what we had in our last release. And you see what we had in our last release was the ability to process in AP when I create this. Just to repeat the setting really quickly, that setting, defaulting here in my customer, I have that referenced or tagged vendor involved here. So once you've got the vendor and the customer linked together, you have the ability to create that processed in AP and post that in. So building upon that, when we come to accounts payable in this release, we have the ability to filter my AP bill list for those transactions. So when I apply this filter, it goes through all of my available accounts payable bills and it specifically filters it for the refunds that were created in the process in AP refund process. It's just really nice to be able to filter these into things like a batch payment. It's nice to be able to group these things together, especially if, again, if you're having to process a lot of refunds in a batch. I've had to do that in past. This is a really nice way to be able to do that, set them all up as process in AP, and then come into pay bills and select this filter. And now you have all of your refunds set in a batch. So speaking of batch processing, I'm moving now into what I really think is a really exciting in this release, the ability to do more batch processing of transactions. So there's several areas where this process is available. I'm going to start with purchasing because it is the most like our current process. So you'll see I'm just picking a transaction of receiver here. And I have the ability to create a purchase or convert this receiver into a purchase invoice. So when I click on this, now again, what would we normally do here? We would convert from an existing transaction. And you'll see I have two that are available. They are both pending, but partially released will show here as well. So I'm going to select my first. And just like usual, it drops those rows in. Now I'm going to come in and select my second, and it does the same thing. I have the ability now to combine two or more of those receiver documents into one invoice. Now I can come into these lines, I could edit, delete, configure this to exactly what I need, and then come back to post or draft from that here. So building upon this workflow of just being able to add multiple transactions, converting from one transaction into another, into a single transaction. So let's look at what this would look like in accounts receivable. And you'll see I have my enhanced list showing here. And as I come through this list and I just start checking off my invoices, you'll see it exposes a toolbar here that allows me to mass delete or mass post. I do get a warning here before I do, and I do need to actually confirm that that's what I want to do. But it's really nice to be able to just be able to come in and move very quickly and be able to post things in mass. Now, moving into order entry and building upon our complexity a little bit further, I need to actually move over into configuration for this one. To take advantage of this feature, I need to check the box for advanced processing. Now, You'll see I have this checked off. You'll see it's also for purchasing. I think I forgot to mention that earlier, and I apologize. So the way to enable in purchasing to process multiple transactions, I would need to go into purchasing configuration and also set this up. But it's the same a lot of times in order entry and purchasing. So you'll see I'm showing it here, but it'll look exactly the same in purchasing. Now, once I have this set up, what does it do? All right, so it means that when I move over into all, now under my other transactional activity, I have the ability to process transactions. And what does that mean here? It means that I could sort by a date, a specific item, or within a range of those dates or items. The things that are required here are the types of transactions that I want to create and a customer. So in this example, I'm going to choose credit memo, and I am going to create a credit memo from some sales invoices that I accidentally created. And this is just a basic example. You may have a different one in mind. And I am going to pick the customer associated with these mistakes. Now, I'm going to pause here for a second because we have choices here. And I'm going to show you specifically in demo the difference between lines and transactions. But I could also filter on entity if I needed to be entity specific. I can also filter on the maximum numbers to select. I don't have anything complex in this example, but I just wanted to show you the features of which you can select. Now, the one thing I won't show as I talk through here is whether I want to create, I'm just going to talk through it here rather than show it. Whether I want to merge into a single credit memo from each of the invoices, or whether I want to create an individual credit memo for each sales or invoice. It is a little bit of a one-to-one or many-to-one choice that you're making here. So you may need to, you'll know exactly which one you need to set here, is my guess. All right, so clicking view, you'll see I've got a document number pulling from the next in line to say new. I could put a reference or a description if I needed to. You'll see that it's noting that my lines are merging. And then I'm setting a specific date if I wanted to. It's defaulting to today's date, but I can change that as much as I need to. You'll also see that defaults like bill to, ship to, base currency, if I had a department entity defaulting from my customer record, even warehouse if I had inventory engaged. Now, you will see here also, because I've selected it by lines, now it is pulling back all of the available lines that I could then choose to bill from each of the invoices that are available. So my invoice number is my document number, and then I have each of my lines here. So I could choose individually from all of these invoices what I specifically want to credit memo or refund. Now, let's look at what this looks like if I was processing by transaction rather than lines. So I'm going to change it over here. All righty, so what you're seeing now are the invoices list that is available here. And so different from my lines, I now have the ability to choose all of the lines that are in that when I'm processing this transaction. I'm having a little bit of a delay here, so give me just 1 second to fix it. Apologies. I'm frozen, you all. I apologize. Let me just reset this really quickly. Huh. Almost there, sorry. Good. Finally, we've been frozen. Sorry, you all. Thank you for patience. Alrighty, so what we were showing, and again, let me test my face. Here we go. Yep. So when I select my transactions to create from here, you'll see that they are now just the individual invoices. Like I was saying before, before I froze up, you could have those three available and select which ones you approve to include, and then click create from here. Alrighty, so that is processing transactions. The next section I want to show you here is in a new section here called billing groups. And I do want to flag here that this is a place where you may need to go and check your permissions. There are new permissions around viewing the list or editing the list. So if you can't see this section in your instance, you may need to go and give yourself those permissions or ask your admin to give you those permissions. But let's take a look at what a billing group looks like. I like to think of this as a one-stop shop. You'll see what I mean in a minute here. And I have one simple one set up here. It is my partner's billing group. You'll see that it's creating a sales invoice transaction, and it is active and in progress. Now, when I open this up, now you'll see this example, and you'll see what I was saying before about this billing group being such a one-stop source of information around your billing. So I have an overview of the invoice process overall. And I've set terms in this description. I've set, the frequency of how it's going to be billed and what it's creating. But you'll see down in my member section, this is where I am building a recurring schedule where I have preset customer groups set up. So when I'm adding my groups, I can activate, I can inactivate them. Let me come into edit so I can show you that. So you'll see I can activate or inactivate from my groups specifically. Now, I do have the differences here between the two sections of groups or individual accounts. And all that means is that I am in my schedule, I have dimension group or individual members is the translation here. I can maintain that billing group as a dimension structure. And sometimes we use these dimension structures for reporting. There are different groupings of how we're invoicing, and we want to see those in different reports. I can build upon that and also use that and build upon that to do my billing. I could also conversely very easily just come through my list and individually ad hoc add members as well. So the other area I want to spend a little bit of time focusing on here is my schedule and my frequency, because this is an area where we have also really improved the process a little bit. And just to give you a sense of the defaults here that give you the ability to lock this in so that mistakes and things don't change, but that you have that frequency and recurring that you need. So whether that is a bi-week, I could set that with a start date and then never set an end date, or I could specifically indicate my end date. And now you'll see that it exposes and I'm grayed out in my number of occurrences. Now, I also, by conversely, when I change the number of occurrences, that will cancel me out. I also have settings here in order to say the days before the invoice date that I'm posting to create those invoices. Again, just a little bit more refinement on the batch and frequency and scheduling. And then same concept here of that invoice date to post to GL if I need a little bit of difference between my accrual and my subledger to my general ledger. So this is a lot. And I'm really excited. To me, it is a really big deal in terms of an area of improvement that I personally can't wait to play around with and see what kind of improvements we can make in terms of recurring billing. I'm really excited to play around and work at testing this one. But switching gears to some smaller, but I think important sections that we should cover in part of our release, I'm going to move back into my order entry configuration. And this is another one that is the same in order entry as purchasing. But what this allows me to do, rather than, in my functionality, when I come down into my tax section, I have a new box here that enables me to override the tax schedule on my document entry. And this is important, if I had a scenario where I needed users to have permissions to come in and fine tune or be able to override that permission, you may have Nexus, you may have a percentage change. There's a lot of reasons why you might need to override your schedules, either whether that's an order entry or in purchasing, to be able to accurately reflect the calculations in your invoice or what you need to send out. It is, like I said, the exact same configuration in purchasing. I'm not going to show you that, but it's really important to know that they're here. Now, the next feature, again, a little bit small, but a little bit big, is in my contracts module. So if you're using contracts and you're using usage billing, I now have the ability to enable quantity details on my invoice. Now you will see that I'm grayed out here, and that's important to see because once it is on, it is always on and it never turns off. So a choice here, if you're not using quantity billing currently, you may want to change this or turn it on, turn it off if you're not using it. But if you do have it on, it is always on. And I think it's a really nice feature that improves our billing and how the billing goes out. So just to give you a quick example, again, within what it's going to do is it's going to expose fields of quantity used, average price, and let me just open this up so you can see it. Quantity used and average price, and that's what these fields are that's through here. Now, these are going to be available whether that is in your billing workflow, in your invoice generation itself, or in the preview. So again, what you have already built out with using these templates. These invoice templates now can invoice with the display on quantity, quantity used, and average price. And it's, again, used to represent in that billing of specifically that average price or supported printed document templates. So what is that template? What do you want to look, what does that look like? Again, really nerdy, but a quick example here. Here's the template that comes with this now. You'll see I have a column for quantity used with that item, my price that's coming through. Here is that table or that field for average price. Here is the table around my quantity used for the period, and then the direct, additional checks. So that template is, I just think that this is a really nice feature to improve the, if you're using usage billing. I guess we would say this is a small but mighty feature within R3. Okay, so that's the tiny small changes within contracts. The next feature and changes that I want to talk through are in fixed asset management. And I just want to talk through this before I show it to you. And as this page loads, let's do that. So in the past, when we had a disposal asset, we would have to come in and delete, and that was our option. And now with this release, we're going to have the ability to revert. And so as I open up this, this is really, I will say, what is the purpose behind this? This is a really nice feature to have for those of us who have regulated or audited environments, because that delete feature before would just remove the asset. This revert is going to allow me to revert all of the offsetting entries that go with this. Oh, good, we're not frozen. Yay. Okay, so within my asset, you'll see it is disposed. And I have a tab here for disposals with all the information around that. Again, what is information here? Here's my disposal date. Here's the disposal type, any information surrounding that. But you'll see over here, I have some little dots, or the hamburger, as we say. And you'll see when I open this up, I have now the ability to revert. So as I mentioned before, it is going to delete that disposal journal entry. And it's going to record the changes of the state of the depreciation from canceled to not posted, and it's going to change your asset back to in service. Okay. So next section here, and I'm going to talk through this as far as setup, because this one is a little bit, I don't want to confuse us with revert in and reverse with disposals, but in this release, we also have a new configuration setting. And this release extends the summarized depreciation entries to support correction treatments. And those are within reverse and revert. And you'll see deleting your records or keeping those records and reversing is the definition here. And what that means specifically here is that, again, when fixed assets management depreciation postings are turned on, the postings from your multiple assets in a summarized journal entry, if they share that same journal and a posting date. So if I'm making edits to things that are in a summarized journal, this is going to allow me to, when I'm editing that, decide whether I want to revert or reverse. And this is a really nice improvement, again, from that regulatory feature, but it also is a nice way to reduce, let's just say, spaghetti in my fixed asset journals where I had summarized entries and then I have to come down into my, when I'm fixing things and come into those individual asset transactions. I hope I didn't confuse you on reverse and revert. Please let us know here. Again, the difference here is it's a little bit challenging with our release. I personally confused this when I was working in it. So I'll just say, again, to flag this, that it's different from reverse revert in my disposals, but it is similar in what the activity and choice here is. This is very specific to when I'm having summarized journals and posting my depreciation there. All right, last feature in fixed assets, and this one's pretty fun too. This helps with our audit environments as well. And let me just, again, because I'm an accountant, I'm going to change this to current year to date. But what this filter allows me to do in the new features, you'll see we used to have the ability to add in the state. Is it in service? Is it disposed? But with release 3, we have the ability to add in more dimensions. So for me, I have chosen entity and department. You may need to choose project. You may want to include IDs versus names versus IDs. These are all your choices and how you want to build. We also now have the ability to show additional details on the asset record, things like asset tag or serial number. These are things I really like in terms of having a little bit more flexibility and sorting or grouping my assets straight from that asset detail. So let's look at what this looks like in detail, just so that again, I have the ability to export this, whether that's CSV or Excel. I can memorize it and put it onto a dashboard. I could schedule it, but for right now, I'm just going to show you a view so you can get a sense of it. So again, a lot of detail in my detailed report, but when I slide over to the side, now you'll see against my journal and book, I now have asset tag, serial number, and my 2 dimensions of location and entity. So same as my other report, just with an additional detail added into here. I really like this feature for fixed assets. It just makes it helpful when you're when you're trying to get an audit report or something really quick out. Okay, so moving into from here, we're going to move to the general ledger. Now, in this release, we have a little bit more about navigation and ease of use in the general ledger. So in the setup, I'll just show you this really quickly. We have now journal entry approvals and delegation in its own section in setup. I think this was in configuration before, and now it's on the main menu. And what's nice about this is that I have the ability to come in and review all of my journal approvals in one spot. I can navigate to managing my delegates from here as well, or I could come in directly from here, depending if I needed to go directly. That's all I was doing was approve my delegation maintenance. Let me click on edit. Now, I only have one simple one set up here. You probably would have many. If I had, whichever journals they were set to, it may be none. You may also want to just look at the frequency with no approver, but what are the individual transactions or summary? You may want to keep track of those. I have a lot of settings here. Again, whether this is a single transaction, whether this is a daily summary or weekly or just part of my month and close. When I look at the approver list within here, I also have the ability to add multiple approvers as well. So what's nice about here is that you'll see I can drop down, I can add as many approvers as I need, first position, second position. If I need multiple approvers, I'm managing all of that within a single resource or a single list. I really like this feature if you can't tell. I always like when things come off of configuration and into their own menu. It's like they've grown up. Now, If you wanted to work within your approval direction delegation, this may look very similar. So I'm just going to feature this really quickly. Again, it's sort of that one-stop shop to show who those are and who my master is and who my default delegators are, my list of delegation ability. Okay, so back into general ledger and into another feature or improvement we've had in navigation. And that is that I have the ability to view my journal entry templates directly or go directly to them. So if you're using these templates, you'll be excited to have them again, a whole list to be able to navigate quickly to. You also have the ability to use my plus sign and just add one on the fly. The feature here is very similar. I'm not really changing what's happening here. You'll see I have my recurring entry, and on the face of it, you can see the list, what is successful and how many have posted. I could also come in and edit and delete or maintain that list as well. All right, so we're rolling into one of my last features here, but it might probably be my favorite. And we're coming back basically where we started at the dashboard. And what we're doing in dashboard here, we've got two really quick features to walk through improvement-wise. One is on my component settings. And the new feature here is that I've got compare to sections. So whether that is by period, by budget, or whether I'm going to a prior period, this is exciting. It goes back, let's just say 99 periods. And I think that's 8 years that we can look back. And then I can put my smiley face or thumbs up, and I can green or red to show that whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I also can choose whether that's a period difference comparing to 8 years ago or specifically, or what that percentage change is from 8 years ago. All righty, last feature here, and this is just on reporting in general in my report writer. And in the filters feature, and quite often in this example, we are, whether we're running them as PDFs for our, let's say, month end close, and we're scheduling this to run, whatever it may be, sometimes we are running these as individual reports. And what's added in this feature now is when I check that box to run as individual reports, I have the ability to exclude blank pages. And this is really a nice feature if I'm running a lot of reports. Again, I'm running my P&L by department. Not every department is going to have data in it. So now when I check this and run, you'll see that it exposes whether to include those blank pages, and it excludes them. So being able to filter out those blank pages for me, if I'm printing this, it's going to save me having to go through my printed documents and remove those blank pages or save printed paper, saving the environment. But also in your presentations in a PDF, you won't have to go through and edit those PDFs to edit out those blank pages anymore. And I know some of us have been having to do that as well. So this is a really exciting new feature. Now, that is all of my time to show you the release features. I thank you so much for your patience and your attention, and I hope this was all really helpful to you. Back to you, Becca.
Thanks, Joy. Sorry about that. Was having a little trouble coming off mute.
I was
All
thinking you
right.
froze too.
Yeah, this computer's been giving me
So,
trouble. All
yeah,
right.
well, I'm glad we recovered. Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks again, Joy, for walking through the highlights from the R3 features today. And thank you everyone on the call for sticking with us through that. So to quickly recap, today we covered updates across several key applications, showed how these enhancements can optimize your processes, and shared tips for preparing for the R3 release. We hope this demo helped you feel more confident about what's coming and how you can take advantage of the new functionality. Now, before we move into the next poll, I want to highlight a few early adopter programs Sage Intacct currently has opened. So they're listed here on the screen: Smart Excel Reporting, Finance Intelligent Agent, Cash Intelligence, prepaid expense amortization, and custom purchasing approvals. So we won't go into these in too much detail, but if you see anything flashing up on the screen here that sounds interesting to you, please Don't hesitate to submit a ticket through the CrossCountry request hub, and someone from our PPS team will be more than happy to help you get set up with one of these early adopter programs. Now, let's move into our next poll. How is your organization using Sage Copilot or AI in Sage Intacct today? We'll give everyone about a minute to respond here. All right, couple more seconds. Get a couple more votes in here. All right, so thank you everyone for sharing here, whether you're already using Sage Copilot or aware of it but haven't started, or just beginning to hear about it, even for the first time today. Our team is always happy to help you explore what is possible. Okay. So as we head toward the end of today's sessions, here are our key takeaways. Hopefully you've learned the new R3 features across the core modules and advanced applications you use, identified which enhancements matter most to your day-to-day tasks and the impact of each on your organization. And always note you can reach out to CrossCountry to assist with any of your release management needs. All right, now for our last poll. Here it is. Of all the R3 features we presented today, are you interested in any of the new release functionality? Give everyone about 30 seconds to answer here. All right, a few more seconds. All right, great. So thank you everyone for your responses. Whether you're ready to implement these features, still evaluating what fits, or just staying informed for now, our PPS team is here to help however is useful. All right. Before we move into Q&A, I want to remind everyone about our release management support offering. If you need help enabling any of the R3 features we demonstrated today, or would like additional training for your team, our PPS team is here to help. You can either reach out directly to your PPS account manager or submit a ticket through the CrossCountry request hub.